According to Chicago Agent Magazine, Chicago came in at number 9 for the top 10 cities to invest in real estate in 2023. And despite this news headline, I'm actually going to be breaking down 5 reasons why you should not invest in the Chicago real estate market and the pros and cons. So we are going to talk about maybe why you don't want to invest in Chicago. If you're an investor, you're considering your options, you're trying to figure out where to invest and where to build your portfolio. We're gonna tell you why you should not invest in Chicago, but at the same time, I'm gonna give you some reasons why many people continue to invest in the Chicago real estate market. Welcome back to another video. If this is your first time here, my name is Jordan Pyle, and I'm your go-to Chicago real estate agent. I've been servicing the city of Chicago for the last 10 years, and my team and I would be honored to help you achieve your real estate goals. So whether you're moving to Chicago from out of state, like so many of you that reach out to me are, or if you're just moving around in Chicago, whether you have a place to sell, or you're looking to purchase your first property, well, feel free to just reach out at the number on the screen. That will go to me directly, and my team and I will get in touch with you so we can help you achieve your real estate goals. So without further ado, feel free to check out all the resources down in the description. And before you go, please do us a favor and like, comment, and subscribe. All right, let's get into it. All right, the number one reason on the list for why you should not invest in the Chicago real estate market is because overall, we have a declining year-over-year population. And I know a lot of investors out there, when they're thinking about investing into a certain market, one of the main macro criteria they look for is an area that has basically year-over-year increase in population, meaning the city is growing and adding more people every single year versus losing it like Chicago is. So that's the first reason. And a lot of things have happened in the last 2 or 3 years, which has led people to move out of Chicago, whether they're just seeking warmer weather and going to some of the Sun Belt states. That's something that's been super popular since the pandemic. You also have a lot of people that have just left Chicago, which is about 3 million people, and they went to the suburbs of Chicago, where there's another 7 or so. So with that being said, we're going to be more so focused on the Chicago real estate market, the downtown market, and why you should not invest here. So that being said, that's the number one reason. We have a declining population for various different reasons, but we still have over 3 million people in this beautiful city of Chicago, but that's a reason why somebody may choose not to invest in the Chicago real estate market. So as I said before, even though we're gonna be talking about 5 reasons why you shouldn't invest, we're also gonna be highlighting some of the pros of why people do invest in Chicago. So the first one that's gonna rebuttal the declining population is going to be the fact that Chicago is an incredibly strong rental market. Out of that population I just talked about, over 50% of that population are renters. So if you're buying property in Chicago, even though you may have an overall decline of people leaving the state and the city, you're also going to have a lot of people that are needing rental properties year after year. So in terms of vacancy, you're gonna have a very, very low vacancy, which can obviously make up a huge difference in terms of cash flow and the longevity of that investment. And that investment continuing to make sense, not only when you purchase it, but over the years, 3, 5, 10 years down the road. For a lot of investors, they look for cash flow. However, as soon as you have vacancies that exceed 5, 10%, now all of that vacancy is eating into the amount of cash flow. So if you're investing in markets that have really strong cash flow, on the flip side, you may have more vacancy. You may have higher levels of vacancy, which 1 month or 2 months of just missing having your place rented out can eat into all of that profit that you have on an annual basis. So with that being said, Chicago's strong rental market is one of the pros of investing here in Chicago. So the second reason you do not want to invest in the Chicago real estate market is we have some crazy high taxes. We actually have the 3rd highest tax rate or net effective tax rate in the country, coming in at 1.98%. So if you're thinking about investing in Chicago, when you're running the numbers and you're filling out the pro formas, you're gonna notice that that tax bill is gonna eat significantly into the numbers of the deal. So some people, this doesn't make sense. There are different pockets. There's over 77 different neighborhoods in Chicago, some that have lower tax rates than others. So it's just about finding the areas where you can have a lower tax rate, or you overcompensate for somewhere else, knowing that no matter what, you're gonna have relatively high taxes in Chicago. On the flip side, one of the pros is that you have a very diversified economy in Chicago, making Chicago a very stable market to invest. So let's just give you an example. In the past couple of years, we saw the crazy markets such as like Austin, Texas, Nashville, Utah, just to name a few. They saw crazy appreciation over the last 2-3 years, since it's been a crazy seller market with no inventory. However, as the market has started to shift and things are starting to correct and kind of even out a little bit, those are the markets that are being impacted the most. So they're gonna have the biggest chance for appreciation, but then also when the market is less or more volatile and maybe not as strong, they're also also gonna see a lot more decline in home values. Whereas Chicago, on the other hand, just remains flat and steady, right? Especially in the downtown city market. If you're gonna be investing here, you can't really expect a ton of appreciation, but you can always expect your place to be rented, and you can always expect just slow and steady appreciation over the years. And that's one of the main reasons why a ton of people like to invest in Chicago, is because it's safe. So if you're looking for maybe an armchair investment, you're looking to deploy some money into something that you don't necessarily need a ton of day-to-day or weekly maintenance, but you just want to let it appreciate and pay you cash flow every single month, I think Chicago is a good market for that. And so you're not going to see, these big gains. So if you're thinking like, hey, let me invest here today because I want in 10 years this property to be worth double, it's going to be worth more, but it's not going to be worth double like it could be in some other areas. And again, there are pockets in Chicago where you can achieve this, such as more rapidly gentrifying areas. But for example, where I live here in Lincoln Park in Chicago, I mean, you're typically going to see like maybe 1 to 3% swings either way. So if the market tanks in the next couple of years, Chicago is probably gonna hold pretty strong. So even though a lot of markets in 2023 are projected to go down, Chicago is actually projected to stay either flat or maybe 1 to 2% up in terms of year-over-year home value. And the biggest reason for this is just because of the diversified economy. So you have everything from finance to healthcare to education to startup scenes. So you just have a lot of different reasons where people are gonna continue living in the downtown Chicago market. All right, the number 3 reason why you do not wanna invest in the Chicago real estate market is just the history of political corruption and just politics in general. So if you're to stack up different markets of where you may want to invest, if you're thinking about a market where it is very landlord friendly, well, Chicago is not that market. Chicago is going to lean more towards the tenant as it relates to like landlord tenant disagreements or different issues. Typically the vote is going to be casted towards the tenant versus the landlord. So we do have a new mayor that's going to be coming in, so we'll see kind of where the direction of Chicago goes. But in the past 2-3 years and over the time that I've been selling real estate in Chicago, there are just a lot more laws that favor the tenant versus the landlord, and a lot of investors, this is a no-no, so they decide against it. So on the flip side, one of the pros of investing in Chicago is for a large metropolitan city, it's actually very affordable. And I know that may seem crazy, but compared to cities like Boston, San Francisco, Miami, New York, places out in California, Chicago for a large metropolitan is actually very, very affordable. So a lot of investors are still finding good opportunities here because they want to invest in a large city, but they don't want to invest in a large city that is not as affordable as Chicago is. The median home value in Chicago is somewhere right around $300,000. So you can see how significantly low that is compared to somewhere else like a Miami or maybe a San Francisco or a Boston, where I'm sure that's probably $600,000-$700,000 plus. The 4th reason on the list why you do not want to invest in the Chicago real estate market is if you're strictly looking through the lens of the 1% rule. And for any real estate investors out there, this is essentially saying that if you were to buy a property for $300,000, you should be able to achieve 1% of that on a monthly basis. Here in Chicago, the 1% rule is just really not that achievable. There are some markets on the south side of Chicago where you can achieve this, but let's just say you're buying, and you really won't be buying this, but just to make math easy, a $100,000 property in the north side city of Chicago, you're probably closer to like $600 to $700, maybe $800 a month. But as I just talked about with the 1% rule, that $100,000 property should be renting for $1,000, and that's just not the case here in Chicago. So most properties are not gonna pencil out from a general 1% rule standpoint. So the 4th reason why I think that investing in Chicago is a good idea, so one of the pros here is that it's a great opportunity for somebody to come in and house hack, because we have a ton of multi-unit properties. So in a lot of neighborhoods in Chicago, such as ones like Logan Square, Westtown, Avondale, Irving Park, just to name about 4 areas in Chicago that have been popular for house hacking, this is essentially somebody being able to come in, get in for a low down payment, let's just say 3.5% with an FHA loan. They're gonna move in and primary occupy one of the units, rent the other units out, and be able to at least hedge their mortgage, if not fully cover their mortgage. What we're seeing in Chicago right now is that if you're buying a 2-unit, this is typically going to be easier because of the self-sufficiency test, and usually the 3 units aren't penciling out for the self-sufficiency right now. So as a 2-unit, you can basically buy the property, live in one of the units, and you're not gonna cover your mortgage with the other unit, but you're gonna significantly reduce the monthly amount that you're paying on that mortgage. And then if you can get self-sufficiency to check out, and if you can go 3 or 4 units, then this is going to achieve more cash flow, maybe even give you the opportunity to live for free if you have 3 and especially 4 units. All right, the 5th con on the list of why you do not want to invest in the Chicago real estate market is you know, it's a big city and we have some crime issues, right? Just like any big city, Chicago is working every single year to figure out our crime situation. So for some investors, they just don't want to deal with it. So they're going to go to somewhere that has maybe a little bit less or lower of a crime rate versus Chicago that is kind of working through different areas of improvement, to say the least. And the fifth pro, just to back that one up, is Chicago is Chicago. It's one of the most beautiful cities in the world, arguably the most beautiful city in the world. So many people live here, so many people love Chicago. It's always gonna be an awesome city. So for the strength and security of your investment, a lot of people are going to continue investing in Chicago, and honestly, some of the other areas in Illinois as well, such as like Rockford, Springfield, some of these areas are becoming very popular because they're somewhat close proximity to the city of Chicago, but you're able to achieve a little bit better cash flow, and the numbers just pencil out a little bit better because you're outside the city. But all in all, I gave you the 5 reasons why you should not invest in the Chicago real estate market in 2023, and I gave you 5 reasons why maybe you should. So I hope this video has been helpful. If it has, please do us a favor and like, comment any questions you have down below, and be sure to turn on the notifications so that you can catch all of our future videos. Without further ado, I'm gonna sign off, but before I do so, here's my number again on the screen. Feel free to text me if you're thinking about moving to Chicago. My team and I would be honored to help you achieve your real estate goals. All right, till the next video, peace.